Where can we meet God? Well, 2 Sundays ago, we have seen how it was in the desert that Jesus met God. Last Sunday, we saw that it was in the mountain that Abraham and Jesus also met God. But surely there can be no better place than the temple, God's own house, as we are so accustomed to call our churches. Well, in today's gospel, we see Jesus going to the temple, the holy place. But instead of finding God, the priests, the Pharisees, he finds humanity at its worst, with their greed for money, with their discrimination and division among the people. The leaders of the people turned the temple into a market. Today we would call it the economy. Everything, everyone was concentrated on making money, buying and selling of the animals to be sacrificed to God, changing the money, and it's good to know that changing the money was not just changing the currency, but it was changing the Roman money, which was considered to be dirty money, into the clean money of the temple, so that the faithful could offer pure and clean sacrifice bought by pure and clean money. Worship and prayer became just another excuse for the religious leaders of the time and of all times. Like all other leaders, another excuse to grab power and to make money. Any resemblance to today's world is purely accidental, please let me note. The temple at the time was, of course, the wonder of the world because it was a magnificent establishment built as a place of worship to God, who, of course, deserves the best. So, the best people will enjoy the best places. The only problem is that sooner or later, even without our knowing it, we replace God Himself with our own homemade gods, money and power. We keep up our devout appearances, but the reality is selfishness and self advancement. Just a little story to illustrate this. A priest was coming back to his parish house one evening late at night, and he was stopped by a robber who pulled a gun at him and, um, uh, threatened him, demanding your money or your life. As the priest reached his hand into his coat pocket to give him his money, the robber saw his Roman collar and said, "Oh, so you're a priest, father? Oh, then you can go." The priest was rather surprised and, in gratitude, just tried to offer the thief, a packet of cigarettes. To which "No, father, thank you. I don't smoke during Lent." Yes, we can be very pious. We can observe scrupulously all the religious practices and yet be unscrupulous crooks. Going to Mass is not enough. We are not good people because we go to church. We go to church so that we can become daily good and better people. Let's go back to the Jerusalem temple. It was built with very precise specifications. It had 5 sections or courts, as they were called at the time: the Holy of Holies, the court of priests, the court of their part of for the Jews, and that meant Jewish men, then the court of the women, and finally, on the outside, the court of the Gentiles, the non-Jews. There was room for everybody in circles, concentric circles of holiness. And It was a magnificent way of expressing and showing one thing. There is room for everyone in the house of God, even the non Jews. The house of God was a universal house for all nations. Every man, every woman, every person from any religion, from any walk of life, any person of any color, of any tradition, is welcome into the temple of God. But the Jews turned the part of the Gentiles into a place, just a marketplace, with their money laundering, with their, yes, the cleaning of the money. The word is very, very precise. So they exchange it for clean money, and you know, and the money took the place of the Gentiles, who no longer could come in there because it was a marketplace and no longer a place of prayer. Because the Gentiles were no longer regarded as a part and parcel of the house of God, but money and and dealing then became a part of the temple and the house of God. The temple was intended to be a place of welcome. It was the Father's house. Then in it there should be a place for all his children. But for us human beings, this was too much. We do pay lip service to this universal welcoming. Yes, we do love everybody, but as long as everybody stays in his or her place and does not invade my space. We allot a place for everyone, in all the differences, so long as no one takes a step into the space of the other. There is even a special place, a privileged place, for God Himself, the Holy of Holies. And no one would enter there, so that God may remain locked up in His holy room and not disturb us in our dealings with one another. You see, this was the corruption of the temple. Even God Himself, we imprison in the tabernacle. And the most important thing is that we come to Him, but woe to us if He comes with us back to our houses, to our homes, to our families, to our workplaces. Jesus did walk out from His tabernacle to walk among men on the streets, in the marketplaces of human beings. And because He came out of His holy place of heaven to walk among us humans, you know what happened to Him. Because He was too uncomfortable for us. Yes, meeting God in the temple is indeed a big risk. God always turns our lives upside down, our systems, our mentalities, our human values. And this is what we are afraid of. So we are better off. We can lock Him up in the churches so that He doesn't come and interfere in our day-to-day dealings with one another. As Isaiah says, we are afraid of letting God out of the temple. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, says God, neither are your ways my ways. Going to church means opening our minds and our hearts to one another as brothers and sisters. Our God is not the God of Christians only, or Muslims, or Protestants, or whatever. He is the God of one and all. Each of the religious traditions simply reflects one side, one beauty of the great and marvelous beauty of God and His love for us. And all roads of love and goodness take to God. Let me finish with a light story, which is at the same time a great challenge. A certain man died, you see, and went to heaven. And St. Peter welcomed him and was showing him around, as a newcomer. And Peter was indicating the various places where people were gathered. Here are the Jews, here are the Buddhists, here are the Muslims. And they came to a place where there was a big, high wall, you know. And from the other side of the wall, there came sounds of festivities, celebrations, singing, laughter, so much joy. And the man asked Peter, "Well, who are those people who seem so happy on the other side of the wall?" And Peter hushed him, said, "Shh, don't speak too loudly. Those are the Christians, and they think that they are the only ones up here in heaven." Believers like these need a temple court experience to awaken them to the universal love of God and bring them back to the true worship of the true God, who is infinite love in Jesus to all human beings, all children of the same Father. God bless you and thank you.